Hello YouTubers, you got Tycho again. Today I'm going to show you some drum techniques and how to make Figure's Mr. Hyde bass. If you haven't already heard the song, I'll have a link in the description. And yeah, this is what you'll be learning. And I also figured out with the Mr. Hyde bass, if you play it at a higher octave, slow down the rate and put on a filter, it sounds like Big Butts by the Yin Yang Twins. Alright, so let's get started. Make a new project. I'll name it Mr. Hyde. Then we'll go to our rack. Create a combinator, name it drums, add in a mixer and a Kong drum designer. Go to show drum and effects, and then we'll get a sampler out for 4 samples. So in this tutorial, I'm going to use all samples included in the Reason sound bank so all you guys can follow along. Normally I'd use samples from, say, Prime Loops or something like that, just some nice high quality samples, but these will do for now. So you just double click on here, it'll bring you to your samples. Go to Reason Factory Sound Bank, Red Drum, Drum Kits, Exclusive Exported, Bass Drum, and I will be using the BD bricks. And then normally I'll take the nice low end sound of a bass drum and the nice high end sound from a different bass drum, and then I'll merge them together, putting a low pass on the low one and a high pass on the high one. But for this one, this sample sounds fine, so I'm just going to use this. And then let's make a snare. For the snare, we're going to use the tensor and the monk. So let's get the tensor first. And then we're going to flip our rack and do the gate out of our first snare into the second pad. So every time we hit this, we'll trigger our second sample also. The monk. So now on our bass drum, we're going to put a compressor on it just to bring up the levels a little bit. Let's take our tempo up to 140, dubstep tempo, and then we will I'm just going to put some notes down here. What I like to do is I'll just record it in a loop and then I'll play it on my MPC, and then it starts sounding good or whatever, and the bad parts I'll just cut out. And then if you open it up and select everything and do a Command K, it'll quantize everything and just put it right on beat. And then, so this is what I ended up with. Obviously we have a lot to work to do. I haven't even put in the hi-hat yet. For my hi-hat, I'm going to use the High Brassic. Alright, so let's see what that sounds like. So our snare is there's some drag on it on the this one here. Let's turn down the decay a bit. And it's really quiet, so I'll put a compressor on it, turn up the makeup gain. Gonna turn down the decay on this one a bit too. And now we get to the cool stuff. Alright, so let's route our snares to the same output. I'll do output 3-4. And then I'll make a distortion unit and hold down shift so it doesn't plug into anything. And I will make a audio splitter merger. And we're going to go from the 3-4 into the splitter merger, one end into the scream to our mixer, one end from the merger, I guess we're using it as a splitter, into the mixer. And so then one side of our snare sounds is going to be distorted and the other side is going to be clean. so we can do a level there. I'm going to turn down the distorted one a little bit. We still need to turn down the decay more on that. The distortion really brings out where everything is since it makes it louder. We're going to name this one snare because we're also going to have one for the bass drum. Ooh. This one we're not adding any effects on. It's just to put it in its own separate channel so that we can sidechain it and turn up the level individually just in the mixer. So I plugged that into 5 and 6 right down here. 5 and 6. Alright, let's see how that sounds. Alright, we're gonna turn up our kick a little bit. We'll name this kick. Alright, cool. Now let's make our hi-hat really stand out. Right now it's pretty weak. I'm gonna make it go to outputs 9 and 10, and while holding down shift I'm going to make an RV7 digital reverb and a 2-band EQ. So we're going to go from that output to the input up here. We'll name this hat so we know what it is. We're going to need to turn down this dry wet right here about halfway. Going to turn the damping all the way up and take down the size a little bit. And we're going to switch this to large hull. And then we're going to bring up the high ends on the EQ just a little bit, just so it stands out. Widen that up a bit, bring it over here. So now let's do the overall mastering of the drums. What I like to do is I'll take a maximizer and then go from the output of the mixer into here and then route that back to your combinator. So now basically what we've done is we've taken all the sounds individually so we could still mix the levels here, and then we can turn it all up right here. I like to get it right about where it's not quite clipping, but where we don't need the limiter. So I need to turn that down a little bit. We're clipping a little. And then what I do is I put a pulverizer. If you're not on Reason 6 or if you're in some other program, I've been told that pulverizer is a lot like a sausage fattener VST plugin. So I haven't personally used it, but that's what I've heard. So I'm going to play it and basically tell you guys what I'm doing. I'll put it on a loop here. I turn up the dirt. It gives it that it's like a harder feel. Turn up the squash, it kind of like brings the attack and like makes it sharp and punchy. See, if I turn the dirt up all the way, it'd be like hard style drums. If you're into that. And I'll turn the peak down. Everything just gets louder and sounds better. And then I'll make another maximizer. So this being the final maximizer, I just like using it as a visual to see how far over I'm really going. I won't use the limiter or anything, just because I'm okay with going a little bit over. That's perfect. Let's get on to the bass.